And I'd like to welcome you all to our first July travel session together for our lunch club. And we'll be doing railroads for this month as suggested by you all. So thank you so much for that suggestion. And we're going to be covering the Underground Railroad, Harriet Tubman, and their connection to 4th of July as hosted by Lou. So Lou, thank you so much for coming on and presenting the session today. And hope we all learn a lot. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Alex. It is such an honor to present this. I actually learned so much by doing these presentations, and I'm excited to learn more about Harriet Tubman today, an amazing American patriot, and of course, very representative of July 4th. So, Alex, without further ado, let's advance the slide. Great. Okay, so our agenda today is, of course, talking about the Underground Railroad. 4th of July and a question of freedom, and then reflecting on freedom today. And finally, we'll end with trivia. So pretty typical agenda for the travel call. All right, so let's learn a little bit about Harriet Tubman and the Underground Railroad. We had a little section on her in one of our previous presentations, but we didn't get into in depth enough. So now let's get into a little more depth. So let's talk a little bit about her courage. Very courageous woman who spent her time and resources helping other folks, and that is really to be admired, especially in today's age. All right, go ahead.
Escaping slavery, risking everything to save her family, leading a military raid, championing the cause of women's suffrage. These are just a handful of the accomplishments of one of America's most courageous heroes. Harriet Tubman was born Araminta Ross in Dorchester County, Maryland, in the early 1820s. Born into chattel slavery, Araminta, or Minty, was the fifth of 9 children. 2 of Minty's older sisters were sold to a chain gang. Even as a small child, Minty was hired out to different owners who subjected her to whippings and punishment. Young Minty's life changed forever on an errand to a neighborhood store. There, an overseer threw a 2-pound weight at a fugitive enslaved person, missed, and struck Minty instead. Her injury caused her to experience sleeping spells, which we know of today as narcolepsy, for the rest of her life. Minty's owner tried to sell her, but there were no buyers for an enslaved person who fell into sleeping spells. She was instead put to work with her father, Ben Ross, who taught her how to lumber. Lumbering increased Minty's physical strength and put her in touch with free black sailors who shipped the wood to the north. From them, Minty learned about the secret communications that occurred along trade routes, information that would prove invaluable later in her life. In this mixed atmosphere of free and enslaved blacks working side by side, Minty met John Tubman, a free black man she married in 1844. After marriage, she renamed herself Harriet after her mother. Harriet Tubman's owner died in 1849. When his widow planned to sell off her enslaved human beings, Harriet feared she would be sold away from everyone she loved. She had heard of an underground railroad, a secret network of safe houses, boat captains, and wagon drivers willing to harbor fugitive enslaved people on their way north. So Tubman fled with 2 of her brothers, Ben and Harry. They eventually turned back, fearing they were lost. But in one of her sleeping spells, Harriet dreamed that she could fly like a bird. Looking down below, she saw the path to liberation, and in the autumn of 1849, she set out on her own, following the North Star to Pennsylvania and to freedom. Tubman returned to the South 13 times to free her niece, brothers, parents, and many others. She earned the nickname Black Moses and worked diligently with fellow abolitionists to help enslaved people escape, first to the North and later to Canada. Harriet Tubman worked as a Union Army nurse, scout, and spy during the Civil War. In 1863, she became the first woman in United States history to plan and lead a military raid, liberating nearly 700 enslaved persons in South Carolina. After the war, the 13th Amendment to the United States Constitution legally abolished slavery, while the 14th expanded citizenship and the 15th gave voting rights to formerly enslaved black men. But she was undaunted, and she persisted. She raised funds for formerly enslaved persons and helped build schools and a hospital on their behalf. In 1888, Tubman became more active in the fight for women's right to vote. In 1896, she appeared at the founding convention of the National Association of Colored Women in Washington, D.C., and later at a women's suffrage meeting in Rochester, New York. There she told the audience, "I was a conductor on the Underground Railroad, and I can say what many others cannot. I never ran my train off the track, and I never lost a passenger." As her fame grew, various friends and allies helped her in the fight to collect a veteran's pension for her service in the Union Army. In 1899, she was finally granted $20 a month. In a fitting twist of fate, the United States Treasury announced in 2016 that Tubman's image will appear on a redesigned $20 bill. Harriet Tubman died on March 10, 1913. Even on her deathbed at age 91, she kept the freedom of her people in mind. Her final words were, "I go away to prepare a place for you." If you're inspired by Harriet Tubman's life and work,
Great. Thank you, Alex. That was actually a very good video, I thought. Any questions, thoughts about what you just saw?
91. Her whole life was dedicated to service.
That's so true. Yeah,
That's a
amazing.
brave woman.
She spent everything she had in service, right? She
Mhm.
didn't accumulate things for herself. She built schools and hospitals. I think we had a presentation earlier, Alex, didn't we, where we actually saw a picture of her home and school
Mhm.
and hospital?
Yeah, those important women in American history.
And there are lots of pilgrimages to her homestead in Dorchester County, Maryland.
Mhm.
A lot of groups go down there and go through what might have been a trail in Dorchester County.
Mhm.
I'm
Yes.
Googling it right now to see how far that is from here.
It's not too far. We're gonna actually take a look at that later on. So
Oh, great.
great thinking, Yvonne.
Thank you. Mhm.
Yeah.
It's a
Is that,
wonderful site.
has anybody here been there, by the way?
Oh, but I know a group.
No, I ain't been there, but I heard about it.
Yeah, and there's a group of walkers. They call themselves the Wisdom Walkers, and they walk down Rock Creek Park. And I think on July 17th this month, they are sponsoring a trip down to Harriet Tubman's house. And I have to look into it, but if you Google Wisdom Walkers, I think it'll bring up their plan for this pilgrimage down to her homestead or the museum. They have the Harriet Tubman Museum there.
Yeah, and I think I'm looking at it now. So it's on the eastern shore,
Mm-hmm.
and wow, yeah, boy, we just took a day off on the weekend to go to Ocean City. I should have stopped by there, just outside of Cambridge.
Exactly.
Wow, I think her home and hospital was up in New York, though, wasn't it? As I recall, like
Yes, there is a home up in New York.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
We'll probably see it, I guess.
It's very interesting. The place is very interesting.
Have you been there, Ann?
Yes.
And the one in New York or the
No,
Dorchester?
and down in Maryland.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And the museum too. That opened recently.
Yeah, I got to get down there. I know we also saw Frederick Douglass's house in a presentation earlier, and I'm going to Martha's Table today. I was thinking about stopping by there. That's another place I haven't been inside. I was shocked to hear that 70% of the furnishings inside are original, that were owned by him. I mean, have many of, I know it's a little divergence here, but have many of us been there? Because that's right in our backyard.
We used to take the kids there on the trip,
Okay.
on the school trip during the Black History Month.
Yeah, Tubman, she was born in Dorchester County, but she had that home in Auburn, New York.
Right.
Hmm.
All right, Alex. Well, let's continue on. Thanks for your feedback, everybody.
Yeah, great comments, you guys. So this is a great reading. So Lou, please take it away.
Sure. So the Underground Railroad. So during the era of slavery, the Underground Railroad was a network of routes, places, and people that helped enslaved people in America escape to the north. And this image is the home of Levi Coffin. It's a historic home, a Quaker abolitionist. Yeah, I know the Quakers were really big into the Underground Railroad. I live not far from Sandy Spring, which is a Quaker area, and they have Montgomery County has a big exhibit on the Underground Railroad, because I guess the Quakers were really big involved in that.
It says Ohio, so
Yeah, that's Ohio though, right? So during the era of slavery, the Underground Railroad was a network of routes, places, and people that helped enslaved people in America and the South escape to the North. The name Underground Railroad was used metaphorically, not literally. It was not an actual railroad, but it served as the same purpose. It transported people long distances. It also did not run underground, but through homes, barns, churches, and businesses. The people who worked for the Underground Railroad had a passion for justice and drive to end the practice of slavery, a drive so strong that they risked their lives and jeopardized their own freedom to help enslaved people escape from the bondage and keep them safe along the route. According to estimates, between 1810 and 1850, the Underground Railroad helped to guide 100,000 enslaved people to freedom. As the network grew, the railroad metaphor stuck. Conductors guided runaway enslaved people from place to place along the routes. The places that sheltered the runners referred to as stations, and the people who hid the enslaved people were called station masters. The fugitives traveling along the route were called passengers, and those who had arrived at a safe house were called cargo. Wow.
mm.
Contemporary scholarship has shown that most of those who participated in the Underground Railroad largely worked alone rather than as part of an organized group. There were people from many occupations and income levels, including former enslaved persons. According to historical accounts of the railroad, conductors often posed as enslaved people and snuck the runaways out of plantations. Due to the danger associated with capture, they conducted much of their activity at night. The conductors and passengers traveled from safe house to safe house, often 16 to 19 kilometers between each stop. Lanterns in the windows welcomed them and promised safety. Patrols seeking to catch enslaved people were frequently hot on their heels. These images of the Underground Railroad stuck in the minds of the nation, and they captured the hearts of writers who told suspenseful stories of dark, dangerous passages and dramatic enslaved person escapes. However, historians who study the railroad struggle to separate truth from myth. A number of prominent historians who have devoted their life's work to uncover the truths of the Underground Railroad claim that much of the activity was not, in fact, hidden, but rather conducted openly and in broad daylight. Eric Foner was one of these historians. He hugged, uh, he dug deep into history of the railroad and found that though a large network did exist and kept its activities secret, the network became so powerful that it extended the limits of its myth. Even so, the Underground Railroad was at the heart of abolitionist movement. The railroad heightened divisions between the North and South, which set the stage of the Civil War. Does anybody on the call here have any, like, I don't know, family stories that were passed down or anything about the Underground Railroad?
Mm.
No specific family stories. Okay.
Um, I thought the part about the conductors and stations and how they called, each of the, persons or the stations. I think hearing from Harriet Tubman and how she heard those travelers and traders, how they ran things. That just it makes sense for each of these terms. So I found that very interesting.
It does, doesn't it? A real parallel for all those terms.
And 10 to 20 miles on foot between each stop. I mean, that's amazing. That amount of length to walk.
Yeah.
Here's a map of the actual Underground Railroad. Um,
Oh,
so
look
you
at
can see
that.
how extensive that is.
Look at that. So I'm trying to get a picture of where. So a lot of it did route through like Maryland there. Look how wide that path was. Right through DC into Maryland.
Mm-hmm. It's not maybe some folks don't think about how the Underground Road came through this area, but we'll be learning about some stops towards the end on how it connects to DC. So when I saw that map, I was like, there's got to be a connection to DC and Underground Railroad. So um,
I wonder why look how they're sort of avoiding Pennsylvania. I don't know if they're avoiding that or maybe they didn't have any contacts going through Philadelphia, right up the I-90 corridor there.
well, it was probably more rural. There was probably more routes or highways this was 1850, I think. So almost
Yeah.
200 years ago. So I think that was the main stops. I mean, even today, Richmond, DC, Philly, New York, the capital, Boston. These are some of the most populated areas, so maybe that's why. Because look, where they veered off here into Buffalo. So
Right.
isn't that interesting how they avoided the upper part of New York, but they went on towards the coast, and then because they also mentioned about going into Canada, so maybe some people decided to go to Canada for for safety. But
Yeah, and that
look,
wonderful.
Chicago, Lou, that's your spot. Chicago. You see on the left-hand side on this whole end right here, one of the stops is Chicago.
Yeah, I'm a Detroit guy, but that's okay. It's close enough. The but through Ohio there, I know that area pretty well, and a lot of farmers out there. And then that's exactly where Harriet Tubman's house is when she got older. It's right along that. So maybe that whole path is attributed to her. That whole brown path towards Buffalo. That,
Hmm.
that, that could be that could be her path. All right,
Well,
Alex, well, let's keep on going.
I hope you guys like I haven't really seen a map like this before, even growing up. So I hope you guys enjoyed that.
Yes.
Thank you.
I,
So
I've never seen that one either.
mhm.
I hadn't
That,
seen it.
that
And,
one was very thorough.
and
Mm-hmm.
given the amount of migration through DC, I mean, no, I guess nobody on the call has any like relatives who have any direct stories or anything like that.
The only story I have is the one that Howard University, that Howard, General Howard, fed the and gave them clothing, um, and the tunnels ran underneath of the library, and where the new dormitory is, they were under the houses that were there,
Oh,
and
wow.
ran down the Metropolitan Baptist Church.
Wow.
Mhm.
Now, that's good information.
Well, I've been trying to get. I don't know who did records back then, but some of the records are missing from Howard. And one of the people who recently died was very instrumental in trying to get that put on the railroad, um, Dr. LaFall. And he was very instrumental in even getting them to be looking for stuff. I'm not
Mhm.
sure if the tunnels are still underneath the library. And I don't know when they tore down the old Metropolitan Baptist Church and rebuilt it, if they filled it in or what. You can't get too much information on it. But I know they existed because I actually were in them,
Mhm.
my cousins and I, because my uncle was dean of African and foreign students. And before he went to Ohio, he lived in one of those houses for the professors.
Oh, wow.
And down in the basement, there was a door behind uh, a wall shelf.
That is an amazing story, Ann. That's incredible.
Thank you
And
And
for sharing.
I guess I'm well, as if somebody said, I'm the youngest old person to know about it.
wow.
I wouldn't doubt that at all. So I
Did,
Uh,
would definitely do some more research, and
yeah, I've been.
use your iPad.
Caroline helped me do a little research back a while ago.
Yeah,
Uh huh.
Google is your friend. So keep on going, okay?
and
But
Ann,
Lou, could I
Ann is,
mention your name to the that you're interested in knowing some more about it?
of course,
Okay.
I am interested. Like, if it still exists, and what do you remember back there? Did you crawl through the tunnels yourself?
No, you could walk through the tunnel.
What? So did you walk through it?
Yes, we played in there. My boy cousins, my other girl cousin was scared to go in there, but I would follow the guys.
So how deep would you guys go in?
It was about as wide as my hallway, or maybe a little wider, and it went all the way down to Metropolitan Baptist Church, underneath their building that they used to have the nursery.
That is an amazing story.
And they it was, and when you went in there, there were things like bottles or whatever look like food had been eaten in there.
Oh my gosh, are you kidding me?
Yo, and I wish I'm talking about somebody who's like 10 or 11 years old.
Yeah. But
So
so
you're not thinking about taking a camera and not realizing what you were involved in until it was too late.
so you think those cans were left over from the original railroad
Well,
time?
they looked like they were old, I can tell you that much. And they had some clothes down there that were dry rotting.
Oh my gosh, Ann, that was a treasure trove of history right there.
I'm telling you, and I kick myself every time I tell this story because I have no proof except for and my cousin is got dementia, and my other cousin had dementia, and he's dead, and so I'm gonna ask Reverend what was his name? I can't think of his name right now, but his granddaughter's husband taught with me at River Terrace, and I'm gonna ask
The Underground Railroad.
ask her about it. If she remembers if she was ever in them, and if her grandfather ever talked about it.
Yeah, please do, Ann. Keep us posted. I'm very interested in
Yeah.
that.
Yes, thank you so much. We have about 30 minutes left. So
Sorry
Sorry.
I
about
appreciate
that.
it's okay. I'm letting you know, Lou, because I know we have so much fun. And thank you so much, Anne, for sharing. I really appreciate it. So this is our next video, a quick one, Underground Railroad, Harriet Tubman.
Was an important social movement and network in the United States. It wasn't just safe houses, but it was a network of abolitionists, black and white, who were advancing freedom for enslaved people who were in the South, came north for an opportunity to be free. Sometimes people think that it was an actual physical railroad, and the fact is that there were many ways in which the enslaved found freedom. But most of the time it was on foot. And Harriet Tubman, being perhaps the most famous conductor, was the one who often guided people on foot from the South, various places in the South, along networks and along trails that led to freedom. Harriet Tubman, she was not just this famous figure that helped escaped slaves find freedom. She was also this advocate for human rights. She's a much larger figure than we understand. Our hope is that this is an inspiration for individuals, no matter what sphere of life you're in, to be thinking about what ways can I advance human rights? What ways can I advance justice, and social justice in particular? And that's what this represents.
The trail represents the advancement of freedom and equity from Harriet Tubman to Martin Luther King Jr., and then passing the torch to us, because we know that this project is not over, that there's still so much more to be done.
A quick but powerful video.
Yeah.
Look at that statue.
Binghamton University. That's upstate New York.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
She's the light carrying a lantern. That's has such meaning.
Yes. I put something in the chat about further research that might be related to what Anne was just sharing with us at the library at Howard, on the Howard campus.
Oh,
See, and Yvonne, thank you so much for that. That's a great resource.
let me look at that.
Yeah, Moreland Spingarn Research Center in Founders Library, right on the campus of Howard University.
Okay, well, thank you for that.
Mm-hmm.
All right, sounds good. Well, thank you, Alex. And now the next one's quilt codes of the Underground Railroad. That's something I never heard of. Let's cue it up, Alex.
Hello, my name is Rose Mitchell, and I am the librarian at the African American Resource Center at LA County Library. Today, I would like to tell you about the Underground Railroad and quilt codes. The Underground Railroad is part of a larger story of personal and cultural survival of proud African people brought to America against their will. Prior to 1860, America captured and enslaved about 4 million Black Africans. Slavery came about because Americans needed workers to do the difficult labor on the sprawling plantations that stretched across the South, and because slave traders saw an opportunity to make a great deal of money buying and selling slaves. From the beginning, slaves tried to escape from slave holders, but attempting an escape or helping someone else to escape was dangerous and could result in severe punishment or death. The Underground Railroad is the name for the secret route that slaves took to escape to freedom. It was so named because freedom seekers or escaping slaves who traveled on this underground route seemed to vanish as if traveling underground. It was, of course, not a real railroad, but rather a series of safe holding places called stations. The people who helped the freedom seekers travel from one station to the next, they were known as railroad workers or conductors, such as Harriet Tubman. The people who helped the escaping slaves get food and places to sleep were known as station masters. People who worked and traveled on the railroad used secret codes to learn the routes from one safe place to the next. Although some scholars dispute this, researchers have found evidence that an Underground Railroad quilt code existed to guide enslaved people to freedom. So, escaping from the plantation, as I said, was a life or death decision for the slave because they lacked reading and writing abilities, they were enslaved in a country they knew nothing about, and they were easily set apart from others by their skin color. Where could you go? Whom could you trust? Most information regarding escape had to be committed to memory and passed on by word of mouth using codes, signs, and symbols created by the slaves and only shared with those who could be trusted. because slaves of all backgrounds shared an oral history of storytelling coupled with the knowledge of textile production and African art, an art form which embodies African symbolic systems and designs. They discovered they were able to communicate complex messages in the stitches, patterns, designs, colors, and fabrics of the American quilt. Here are a few samples of Underground Railroad quilt pattern codes and their messages. First, we have the monkey wrench. This design was to prepare the tools you need for a long journey. That was the message. The wagon wheel design, the message was, it's time to load the wagon or prepare to escape. The bear's paw design told the slaves to take a mountain trail out of view or take the path of the bear. The crossroads design told the slaves that the main crossroad was Cleveland, Ohio, a destination offering several routes to freedom. The bow ties told the slaves to dress in a disguise or put on a change of clothes. The flying geese design was the pattern that told slaves to follow the migrating geese north towards Canada and to freedom. The drunkard's path design told the slaves to create a zigzag path to avoid detection. The North Star instructed slaves to follow the North Star to Canada and to freedom. The log cabin, that is the design that we are using today to create cards, which was used to let slaves know where safe houses were. The symbol could also be drawn on the ground by others as a signal that they could be trusted by the slaves and it was safe to talk to them. While we won't be able to create a fabric quilt today, we can take inspiration from generations of quilters and create a log cabin pattern from colorful paper. Before we begin our project, I would like to mention that we have been inviting the African American quilters of Los Angeles to name Ramses, created this beautiful quilt depicting the Underground Railroad hero, Harriet Tubman.
Wow.
Harriet Tubman. We have many resources on quilting in our library system, and the African American Research Center has a few unique items on African American quilting in our collection. I welcome you to visit the African American Research.
And those were some quilt codes. Who knew?
Wow.
Wow.
Well, you know, I had heard that, Alex. I had heard that they
Oh my
quilted
God.
can you hear me?
Yes.
I had heard that they quilted codes on quilts, but I didn't know about the North Star. That's new to me, and the catalog cabins. But you know, weren't they ingenious? Weren't they smart? Weren't they clever to do all this?
It's just
Yeah.
amazing.
I wanted to share, good afternoon. I wanted to share that Martha's Table has a quilting group that meets there twice a month. And also some of the senior wellness centers have quilters there. One of my sorority sisters does quilting at Hattie Hayes Wellness Center.
Hattie Holmes has one.
Hattie Holmes.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. I love the quilting clubs at all the different centers. They're so nice. They show their work in there. So yes, thank you for that, Miss Wanda.
Where is Hattie Holmes located?
324 Kennedy Street Northwest.
Uptown.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, one thing we think about too, I was just thinking about this, that you know, sometimes we think of the enslaved people like all at least speaking English, but you know, if they were still being brought over from Africa, I mean, individual countries in Africa speak like over 90 languages. So even within the people who are enslaved, they don't speak the same language. There's
right.
Yeah.
They couldn't read or write, but they came up with these messages through sheer strength and determination.
So not just reading or writing, they don't even speak the same language.
Yeah, they had to learn it. I mean, it's amazing. I mean, We're here
Wow.
today because of what happened in our past.
What
That's
happened in our past, and you take your hat off to the whites, to all the whites who helped us back then, because there was no way we could have done all that without the support and help of the whites who were in our corner.
That's right.
Mm-hmm. There were quite a few.
The
Yeah,
abolition.
yeah,
of
we have to
course.
say, and if we intend to, do further fighting or the way things are looking now, we'll need to join with whites to do it. We
And,
cannot do it
and
by
everyone,
Yeah.
all as people
everyone.
need to be unified.
Yeah.
Yes, we have to be unified. So they were unified back then. That was great. I mean, I take my hat off to them. I do.
The abolitionists.
The
Yeah.
abolitionists,
Yeah.
yes. The
You
great
know,
abolitionists.
But look at this quilt with the person on it. I mean,
Yeah,
that's
that's
very
Harriet. That's
intricate.
Harriet
That's
Tubman.
Yeah,
Harriet
yeah,
Tubman.
yeah.
that's
I
Harriet right
mean,
there.
that's really intricate. I mean, you have to have a mindset to do that.
Yeah.
Sure, it's beautiful. I mean, the light. She's the light in the dark. That they always depict her with the lantern. It's just
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's just amazing. I hope you all like this video. I found it so interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Very
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah.
Oh,
Very-
thank you, Alex. That was great.
Mhm.
All right. So now, oh boy, we're only on chapter 2. We only got a few minutes left, Alex. Let's cue it up. So Harriet Tubman and the 4th of July. What about that?
So
Well, we got a
it's
little-
just a response. So this is just a thought. So
I'll just read through a little bit of it. So while Harriet Tubman is famously associated with the struggle for freedom, her connection to the 4th of July is more complex, reflecting the harsh reality of slavery in America. The 4th of July, a symbol of American independence, was a day of stark contrast for enslaved people like Harriet Tubman. For white Americans, it was a day of celebration, commemoration of ideals, liberty, and equality enshrined in the Declaration of Independence. For enslaved people, however, these ideals were a bitter mockery. Frederick Douglass, a contemporary of Tubman, powerfully captured this sentiment in his famous 1852 speech. What to the slave is the 4th of July? Frederick Douglass's speech directly addresses the hypocrisy of celebrating freedom while simultaneously maintaining the institution of slavery. He highlights the contradiction between the promises of the Declaration of Independence and the lived experience of enslaved people. Douglass argues that the 4th of July, with its focus on a national independence, only serves to underscore the lack of freedom for those in bondage. Although there are no direct records of Harriet Tubman's specific thoughts on the 4th of July, her work as an abolitionist and conductor on the Underground Railroad reflects her perspective. Tubman dedicated her life to helping enslaved people gain the freedom to the 4th of July. The 4th of July, to gain the freedom the 4th of July celebrated. Her actions challenged the hypocrisy of the nation's ideals and demonstrated her belief in liberty for all. Understanding the complexities of American history is important, including different ways holidays like the 4th of July are experienced by various groups. Examining the perspectives of individuals like Harriet Tubman and Frederick Douglass provides a deeper understanding of the struggles and triumphs that have shaped the nation. In conclusion, Harriet Tubman's connection to the 4th of July is one irony of contradiction. It's a reminder the pursuit of freedom and equality has long been a difficult journey for many Americans. That's great, Alex. Thank you so much for sharing that.
it's an important thought.
Yes.
Yeah.
You have to. So I mean, without the 13 colonies, we may not be here. Without Harriet Tubman, we may not be here. So I think it's
Mhm.
important to look at different perspectives to kind of
Yeah.
get the whole picture and to get what you would like to get out of it, So I thought that was
Yeah.
so important. So here, let's take a look at Washington, D.C.'s ties to the underground.
Oh, maybe we'll see the house that Ann was talking about.
So
Oh, look at that. Oh, see Sandy Springs. See, I told you that.
Mm-hmm.
Woodlawn Manor Cultural Park.
Oh, that's right next to what I'm telling you about.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
The history of slavery in Washington area is studied in contrast. There were free Americans living in the district in the 1830s. Oh, there are more frees in the 18th century than enslaved. Yet in D.C., it's an important center in the slave trade and was bordered by the slave states of Virginia and Maryland.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. It was common to see enslaved people working in the fields, shackled in chains and in pens or in jail. Less visible was the region's role in the Underground Railroad, a network of secret trails and safe houses that helped enslaved people seek freedom in the 1800s. The area's connection to this painful period is the nation's past, led by listener Bev Greer, to submit a question about WAMU and what's with Washington. Where does the Underground Railroad start in DC, she asked, and are there any markers? As for the first part of her question, the starting and ending points of the Underground Railroad varied with individuals who were seeking to escape slavery for freedom. As for many markers that remain, well, let's go for a walk. The slave trade. An exploration of the Underground Railroad should start with a reminder of DC's role in the slave trade. Now, this is interesting. Consider, for instance, the massive tobacco plantation that occupied a chunk of the land east of the Anacostia River. Never knew that. Back then, many enslaved African Americans toiled in the tobacco fields belonging to George Washington Young, the largest slaveholder in the district. Enter the site today and you'll see a group of military buildings and long concrete one-ways of Joint Base
Anacostia.
Oh, wow. Elsewhere, let's see, the Freedmen's Bureau bought 375 acres of land on the eastern banks of Anacostia River and sold small lots to the formerly enslaved. That's when the area became home to many African Americans. I never knew that. Elsewhere, at the corner of 4th and G Streets Northwest, sits the space. So is like east of the river, is that sort of like the, where a lot of African Americans can trace their, like even on this call, can trace their ancestors, back to that?
And Anacostia and parts of Southwest.
Okay. So that's where the ancestry sort of traces back to. It's amazing. Elsewhere at the corner of 4th and G Streets Northwest sits a space once occupied by the Washington Jail. What? Where the enslaved were held. Getting caught on the street after sundown without written permission from the master, for instance, was enough to get you put behind bars until the owner showed up, paid a fine, and took you back. Escapees were sold into plantation labor further south, and the few white participants were also jailed. The stretch from the corner of the third and Pennsylvania Avenue Northwest, I got to put my mind where exactly that is. 3rd and Pennsylvania Northwest, and that's right downtown.
Right downtown.
Yeah, and 7th Street, Independence Ave became the center of Washington's. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So this iconic street in DC. Look, and read the caption here.
Enslaved people awaited sale and relocation in crowded pens and cells near the National Mall. Most Washingtonians were familiar with the Roby's slave pen located on 8th and B Street, now Independence Avenue.
Right on Independence.
In B Street. Oh my gosh.
That's what it used to be, but yeah, right here in
Right there,
DC.
Independence.
Wow.
It's like this is history right here in DC. I think it's amazing.
So it says most Washingtonians are familiar with this Roby's slave pen. Are people on the call familiar with that? Because I never heard of that before.
Familiar with the?
I never heard of it.
Okay. Crowded slave pens dotted the area around the National Mall in the early 1800s, where groups of enslaved people would often be found shackled in chains and lined up to be sold. Hotels bordering the mall rented basement rooms for keeping newly purchased slaves before they were taken out of the district. The trade slave was a profitable and booming business in Washington and highly visible near the U.S. Capitol and White House. Slave auctions were held in district pubs. Wow. There's still a common misperception the Underground Railroad is a literal description. Actually, the journey for freedom was not underground, but enslaved people didn't get out here because of the word underground. Okay, let me skip that because we know about that.
Yeah, that's fine.
Well, let me go up a little bit. I just want to see if they mention anywhere.
It's okay. That part is
okay,
good. But right here, this is more about DC.
The waterways LaRue said were a regular sight along the escape route north towards freedom. That included the Potomac River and the Chesapeake Bay. The path stretched from the south to the north, as well as from Canada to Mexico. Thousands of slaves escaped from the Washington area, according to LaRoche. Newspaper ads and records kept by slave owners detail some escapees, but little documentation is available about specific locations and the names of people who assisted the slaves. They were being sequestered in the black community, shipped away on boats, hauled away on wagons, and carried away in every form of convenience that there was, she says. Perhaps the most well-known tale of emancipation is that of Harriet Tubman in 1849. Tubman was born in Dorchester County, Maryland. Not only escaped slavery, but the historians say she returned to the South 19 times to lead about 300 others to freedom. She experienced a horrific accident.
There's quite a bit here.
Yeah.
We kind of learn about it here at Crenshaw, a 2-hour trek from the district to the park around Route 16, Freedom Highway. It was a major escape route for runaway slaves. It's the mission of the 17-acre state park to allow visitors to experience the dangerous quest through Tubman's eyes. Oh, wow.
Route 16, where is that? That's not 16th Street.
Freedom Highway. No, Freedom Highway.
Oh, I've never heard of that. Okay. Any other areas, Alex, to focus on? I know we're running out of time.
No, excuse me, sorry. This is about L'Enfant Plaza, but as you can see, I'll share this in the chat. But isn't there so much connections to Harriet Tubman and DC and the Underground Railroad? Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
I wonder if any of the existing buildings, because there are some old buildings, although not in that area. I guess they've all been torn down to build this government building. Like, if any of the existing buildings have connections to the slave trade.
Okay, and we got some videos. I think this is we have 3 short videos left.
All right, cue them up.
Yeah, so look at the first one here, Underground Railroad National Historical Park in Dorchester County, Maryland.
I need to get there.
We are in what we like to call Tubman country. So, you know, this is where she was raised, where she was born, where she was enslaved, where she lived the majority of her life until her self-liberation. We like to think if Miss Tubman came back here today, she would be able to navigate herself through here because not much has changed in this area. She had to, you know, be able to traverse the land and all, you know, growing up, being out in the marshlands, trapping muskrats out there. The water was frigid cold, to not have shoes or anything, and she needed to be able to navigate through the landscape using the landscape to traverse as well as the North Star and the constellations. That goes back to working in the timber fields with her father, Ben Ross, as well. You know, that's how she was able to get her knowledge and, you know, use those tools to navigate through the woods to freedom. You had to know which ways to be able to go, where you could go, traveling through the low spots in the rivers, as well as being able to navigate to stay hidden. That's why most of the travels were being done at nighttime and in the wintertime because darkness was longer then, so those were the best times to be able to travel. Everything that she did with no complaints, but just a goal and a mission in mind. So, you know, I try to think of that aspect when, you know, something is getting rough or difficult and you want to start complaining. It's like, well, I don't have much to complain about compared to Miss Tubman's story. I think that's the most inspiring thing about her perseverance and her drive, you know, so, yeah.
Great, thanks, Alex. Let's maybe hit the next one real quick. Oh, that's the one we saw last time. Yeah, cue it up.
I always knew we were related, but I didn't.
Choosing you, okay? Don't have to get it, baby. And you're absolutely right. You know,
I always knew we were related, but I didn't understand that she was famous.
Harriet Tubman, as some people know her, was the Moses of her people. She was one who was willing to draw people out of their situations of slavery into a free life. She was a self-emancipated woman who decided that slavery was not something she was going to be involved in, and that she had a right to be free, and that she was going to do whatever it takes to not only become free herself, but that she was also going to make sure that her family and her family's friends were also free.
She was very brave. I have to give that to her. She was very brave.
And that was just descendant of Harriet Tubman. I think that's amazing.
Yeah.
She was very brave. I have to give that to her. She was very brave and courageous because she was putting her life on the line every time she went north. Then she'd go back down to the south, get some more people and bring them to freedom.
Harriet Tubman National Historical Park is a new national park. It's also a partnership park with Harriet Tubman Home Incorporated, a nonprofit organization that was created under the auspices of the African Methodist Episcopal Zion Church.
And for 115 plus years, this church, which is the church of the descendants of slaves, they have passed the plate literally and put whatever they had into that plate to ensure that Tubman's homestead remained intact. Without the leadership and stewardship of the AME Zion Church and the Harriet Tubman Home, Inc., the nonprofit they formed, Tubman's home and farm surely would have been lost.
The Cultural Landscape Report helps our understanding of a place by really documenting in detail how the landscape developed over time, with a focus on the period that's most important to the history of the site. And
take a look at that map. There's the house, Tubman Farm, Burton Farm, City of Auburn. Look, 25 acres, Harriet Tubman home property. I think that's amazing.
This ground right here, this was her vegetable garden.
The Cultural Landscape Report really helped synthesize a lot of information that was known about both Harriet Tubman's own 7-acre farm and the 25-acre home for the aged property that's right next to it.
Harriet Tubman was very close with the William Seward family. Frances Seward, William's wife, was the true abolitionist in the family. She used her home as a site on the Underground Railroad. She actually harbored those escaping north in her kitchen, feeding them and giving them warmth.
We know that the first time we can definitely pin them down at the same time is in the spring of 1859, when the family makes the offer and she accepts that she'll put $25 down for a 7-acre farm. It's quite a bold move for both parts. Harriet Tubman has to choose to trust the Seward family. According to the letter of the law, Tubman remained an enslaved person and a wanted woman. So
They still minty.
Dangerous for her to sign her name to paper and announce where she was going to be to own property. As far as the Fugitive Slave Act was concerned, she had no right to do this. And for William Seward, who around the same time is a major party candidate for the presidency, he's technically entering into a relationship with someone who's a wanted criminal. Yet they do this.
And not only did she own property, but she accumulated 32 acres of property and had a home for the aged here to take care of people, had an infirmary on the back end of the property, had vegetable gardens here. The people who stayed here did not have to pay, which is unique in itself. Many who could would work on the farm. And she did it not expecting anything for herself.
I believe that Harriet Tubman attended several different churches in Auburn. By later in her life, it was really the Thompson AME Zion Church that she supported. And then when she died in 1913, she was buried from that church. Her service was held in the church. And then she was buried at the cemetery, which was right across the street, Fort Hills Cemetery.
The park, to be absolutely candid about it, first and foremost, it is important to me because I'm an African American woman.
And to be able to do this work that doesn't lift up Harriet Tubman, but provides the grounding for African American people, for women, for freedom-seeking people, is just an amazing thing.
You know, and so often we think that because we were born in a free country, that is just something we're supposed to have. But freedom is not free. Somewhere, somehow, someone paid the cost for our freedom.
Hope you guys enjoyed. This park is a house, property. It's much more than just a park.
Yes, I wonder where she got the money to purchase, because she was only getting a pension from, as a veteran, of $20 a month.
Yeah, I'm looking up this Seward guy right now.
Yeah.
William Seward.
Yeah.
She might have gotten it from his family.
Yes.
Looks like he became governor of New York. I don't ever recall hearing him running for president though.
Right.
$25 for what, 7 acres? I mean, wow.
You have to realize that $20 back in that day.
Oh, that's right.
Of course, yeah,
like
of course.
$1,000. Okay.
Yes.
Probably you're right. It's like 1,000.
but yeah, still thinking that's she did what she had to do.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah, somewhere, somehow, someone paid the cost for our freedom. So, I think we always have to think about that every single day.
Right.
Every single day.
Oh, Alex, I just purchased a book. My neighbor had a book signing, and I saw Cheryl LaRoche's name mentioned in what Lou was reading. And this woman wrote a book that's published this year. It's called Apostle of Liberation. It's about Paul Quinn, an AME bishop in the AME Zion Church, and her burial from that church. And this book was just published this year. And there was a college named after him. I don't know if the college still exists in Texas or not, but it's AME Bishop Paul Quinn and the Underground Railroad. That's the name of the book.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I see the title in the chat, Yvonne. I really appreciate you sharing that. And it's so not funny, but it's so wonderful we did our session today. So hopefully it inspired you to read it even more thoroughly, as you always.
Yes, because I started reading it and put it down, but I really need to go back to it.
I just found some amazing information out. Did you know that Seward was ran against Lincoln? They were both Republicans, and there was no primaries back then. They fought it out at the convention in Chicago, it looks like, and they expected Seward to win the election. Everybody expected Seward to, but there was a ganging up against him at the end, and Lincoln pulled the nomination out of a hat. So yeah.
Thank goodness.
Yeah, so but they were both, anti-slavery.
Yeah, they were both. Yeah,
Yeah.
they were, but yeah, well, if I wanted, or if I would learn more about him, but Lincoln, he he was dedicated as well in his own way, and needed more, but yeah, we might not be here today if that may have happened.
And it looks like the South actually wanted Seward to get the nomination, because once Lincoln became nominated, they began to secede from the Union. So Lincoln's nomination at that convention really triggered the whole secession. Interesting. What a connection to Harriet Tubman.
Yeah, everything is connected, even here at home. It's a wonderful sight.
Well, I love that we're all researching this on the side as we're going through this, right? It's like a big history class we're in.
Hey.
A little bit from Anne, a little bit from Brenda, a little bit from everybody. That's really cool.
So thank you all. We're going to end quickly with some trivia just together. So we'll see how many we can get right together. And then, Lou, any final thoughts? We love to hear from you. But again, pretty simple.
Alex, I probably got to run off because I'm supposed to have left 7 minutes ago
Oh.
for Martha's table.
Okay.
Hey, folks, we're speaking of.
Thank you.
We're providing 25 laptops today for a group of folks at Martha's table.
Oh,
Yes. Thank you. And
Wonderful.
any 4th of July well wishes or
Oh yeah,
for us?
happy 4th, everybody.
same to you.
Enjoy yourself. Hit the
Have a safe
barbecue.
one.
I hope you enjoyed the session today.
Turn the TV off.
I did
Thank
very
you.
much so. Enjoyed
Thank
the
you,
folks even
Lou.
more. All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a good day.
Thanks, Lou. Thank you
Bye.
so much.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, you guys. Let's see how many we can get through, okay? So we'll do 5 of these. We'll do the odd numbered questions. So Harriet Tubman was a young abolitionist. What was her real name given to her by her mother?
Araminta.
Minty.
Uh-huh. Which one? Araminta or
Minty.
Araminta.
Uh-huh. Okay, we'll see if that's right. Whom did Harriet marry when she was 24? He was a free man.
Tubman.
John Tubman.
Tubman.
Okay, any others besides that?
Nope.
Okay, I know that's right. Whom did Harriet rescue first as a conductor on the Underground Railroad? I know in the video they mentioned all of them, but who was first that she rescued? Brothers, children, husband, sister, or parents?
The brothers, wasn't it?
His brothers, I believe.
I heard brothers. Okay, brothers, their wife and children, right?
Right.
Okay. All right, you guys are trekking along. I love it. What was the symbol of the life she would share with her husband? She ended up giving this to a Quaker who helped her. Was it a bandana, gun, pair of shoes, or patchwork quilt?
Patchwork quilt.
Wasn't there a pair of shoes though?
Okay, we got a few quilts. We got 1 pair of shoes.
Can't remember.
Anyone else?
I don't think it was
Anyone? Okay, give me 1 second, you all. Trying to find my place here. Thank you so much. Sorry, you all. 1 moment. Okay. Yeah, patchwork quilt. I heard the most for that, so we'll go with that. And then, but I remember that those shoes. When Harriet was about 13, she felt something good had finally happened to her. What was this? She escaped to Pennsylvania. She got to work in the fields, pet dog, became a maid.
Became a
maid.
Became a maid.
Became a maid.
Okay. Well, let's see. We did 5 of these, so good job. And we'll go through each of them. So our number 1 answer was Araminta Minty. Araminta was her mother's real name too. Her parents named her Araminta so they could call her Minty. Isn't that a interesting name? Or beautiful? I think it's very beautiful.
Yeah.
And Minty, that sounds so adorable.
Araminta.
I like that. It's really good. Yeah, John Tubman. She was free. She made a patchwork quilt. Okay, so that was the answer for the next one. That was a symbol of their life they shared together. He helped her sew it, and it was very precious and special to them both. John Brown was her later husband, and William Still was her Underground Railroad partner.
Go ahead now, Minty.
Whom did Harriet rescue? Yes, sister, brother-in-law, and their children. His name was John Bowley. They brought his family. He brought his family to Pennsylvania. John Tubman fell in love with another woman after Harriet ran away.
Oh,
yeah.
He's a gigolo, I guess.
He thought he was gonna get caught. That's what happened.
Yeah. Yeah. What was the symbol like? The patchwork quilt. Her parents had always wanted her to sew a quilt, so she did it for them. It took about a year to sew.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, she was the conductor, she was a sewer, she was a spy, a scout. I mean, she did it all.
Mm-hmm.
And with that head injury, she had narcolepsy her whole life.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just saying that one video, not when you complain, I'm like, oh my goodness, it just really makes me think, about just I'm so grateful. This one, when Harry was about 13, she felt good. She stopped doing inside tasks and got to work in the field. She loved the fields and would sing and watch birds to relieve stress.
Oh, that's right.
Mm. She loved the fields. She may have not loved, or of course, not loved the work in the fields, but she, it just goes to show she found positive or the light in the dark. But good job. I hope you all learned a lot for our session today.
Yeah.
Thank you. And any initial thoughts, anything new that you learned, just say, this was a great session. I thought this was a great session. So any initial or final thoughts before we end for today?
Learn some new facts.
Yeah.
Mhm. Thank you all for participating. It was a great session.
I would love to go and visit the center that they have in Maryland, or even in Auburn, New York. That would be a great trip.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that merit, that part, the is I'm speechless. It looks so amazing. There's so much history around us. So it's just all about taking a look at it. Not everything at once, but one at a time. And you
Yeah.
learn something new every day. I did not.
Yeah, and thank you for focusing on Harriet Tubman today, Alex. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Alex.
Yeah.
My pleasure. It's so important to look at different points of view. So when it's definitely from the heart, and it's so important for us to know who came before us and
That's
to
right.
Right.
just to think we're so blessed and so grateful today, every single day.
And Lou mentioned Sandy Springs in Montgomery County, so that's closer if you can't get down to Dorchester County, because I did that trail some years ago. I can't remember; it's been a long time. But in Montgomery County, I think it was out in Gaithersburg or somewhere. You'd have to Google to find out.
Oh yeah, Harriet Tubman is she's ingrained in America. Without Harriet Tubman, there would be no American history as we know today, or anyone that helped her or that she was in contact with. As you can see, one person can really make a change. So don't ever doubt yourself, okay, you guys?
Thank you.
Alex,
Mm-hmm.
my grandfather's first wife, her and Harriet Tubman could be twins. They look just alike. And when I first looked at it, I said, that's Harriet Tubman. And I looked a little bit clear and I said, oh, that's my grandfather's wife. But that's unusual.
Well, they say it's somebody that looks like everybody somewhere.
Yes, it does.
We all have
Yes.
twins.
We all have twins somewhere.
Yeah, they say everybody got
But that's what maybe ancestry is for. So, look at your DNA. So that's always a thought.
Yes.
Alice, why you talking about that? I ain't get my stuff for the
I
ancestors.
know. I know. That's I sent you a message, so we'll chat, okay? I got you.
Okay,
I
thank you.
got you. And thank you all so much for coming on. I'll start our module session around 1:25, so you can have some, rest, restroom, all that good stuff, and we'll get started about 1:35-ish. So it was a pleasure to present with Lou. I really appreciate Lou coming on, and let's all wish each other a wonderful 4th of July weekend. But again, 1:30 today, we have a 1:30 tomorrow, and our movie at 6 p.m. tomorrow. So I'll see you very
Yes.
short.
Looking forward to it.
Yes, and I'll see you all in a few minutes. Thank you all so much.
All
Thank you,
right.
Alex.
Wonderful day. It was a wonderful session. You guys did amazing.
Thank you.
See you
Thank you,
all
Alex.
soon. Thank you.